Hello. Today I'm going to be discussing my thoughts on the 60th Grammy Awards that were hosted last night by James Corden. As you can see by the thumbnail of this video, the hashtag GRAMMYSSOMALE, which I see trending on Twitter right now the day after, is so relevant to the discussion and rant that I want to go on about this award show. I will say, first of all, that I never actually expected very much from the Grammys. I don't really, view them as so much talent-based, but more as popularity-based. It is unfortunate because then occasionally they do get some things right. I do hold them to a little bit of a higher standard than all the other music award shows that we have, like the American Music Awards or the Billboard awards, because those are definitely more popularity based. But it's just so frustrating how, in the movie industry, for example, we had a lot of movies that get recognition are movies that truly deserve it most of the time. For example, I mean, the superhero movies aren't dominating at the Oscars, yet they're the most popular at the box office. No, what goes to the Oscars are films that premiered at Sundance or at Cannes, that had no one go to the theater to see them, but then they get promoted because of the Oscars. It's how it should work. It's how award shows should work. But the Grammys don't really operate like that most of the time. But then occasionally there are those random moments, like in 2015, when everyone was so shocked that a rock artist, Beck, who is not as well known as Beyonce, won over Beyonce for Album of the Year with his album Morning Phase. That was one of those moments where it was like, oh, okay, so the Grammys now are choosing to not be about popularity. And it's like, well, why are you sometimes always awarding the more popular artist and then other times it just doesn't make any sense to me? It's like they're flip-flopping back and forth, which makes the Grammys kind of unpredictable and yet predictable at the same time. I don't know, it's just this weird, frustrating things. I almost wish they were just consistently disappointing. Now, I'm not exactly saying that I agree with every single artist that they put that's not mainstream in that scenario. I'm saying it's just weird how they go back and forth on each other. I'm not necessarily saying Beck deserved to win Album of the Year that year. I think Beyonce actually probably should have gotten it. But at the same time, I was happy to see someone who was so non-mainstream win an award like that over such a huge mainstream artist. But then I remember Beck is a male, Beyonce is a woman of color. So then that's where the scale flips the other direction, and the Grammys have historically always skewed male. I see a lot of people on Twitter talking about how, oh, you can't complain about how the Grammys are so white or the Grammys are so male because historically it's a lot of women and black men who have been winning a lot of awards. Yeah, last year we did have Adele, and we have had Taylor Swift, and we have had Beyonce before. But let's be real, most of the time it does go towards men. The Grammys are a little bit better usually in leveling out women to men winning these sort of big awards for Record of the Year, Song of the Year, Album of the Year. So all that being aside, this year in particular is what I want to talk about. So we had a ton of snubs, which is quite obvious. I mean, I'm sure most people watch my channel would agree. Lorde was snubbed. That was huge. Lady Gaga was snubbed. Kesha was snubbed. SZA was snubbed. Khalid was snubbed. I actually do think, I mean, the one woman to win an award during the actual awards ceremony, which was Alicia Cara, I do think that she at least deserved the award. I was rooting for SZA because I just think that SZA's a little newer to the scene. I feel like Alicia Cara has actually been around for a little bit longer, and I don't know, I mean, SZA's been around too, but I don't know, I just feel like SZA's a little bit more fresh now. There's a lot more media focus on her, and Alicia Cara, I feel like a year ago was almost more in SZA's position. And also I was kind of rooting for Khalid though I admit I'm not that familiar with Khalid's music. I will say this, I am very happy that Despacito did not win collaboration pop song. That went to Portugal the Man for Feel It Still. So I did think that was one of the other awards that was actually right. I was very happy to see that because I remember I was watching it. I didn't watch the whole award ceremony. I kind of tuned in and out. But as soon as Despacito started performing, Luis Fonsi started performing, I just had to turn off the TV because I cannot deal with that song. I don't know what it is. No. But we had some amazing performances by particularly female artists. But male and female across the board. Kendrick Lamar opened up the show with a phenomenal and, of course, as always, very political medley of some of his big songs. And although I will admit I am not a huge Kendrick Lamar fan, I really respect and appreciate his talent and his image and everything he stands for. I'm totally 100% behind. The only thing is that like I said, I'm not a huge hip hop fan, and in the rare occasions that I do really get into hip hop, it usually tends to be more female based. I'll listen to, like Lauryn Hill or Missy Elliott, but I won't necessarily listen to Eminem or Jay-Z. I just don't necessarily vibe with the very hyper masculinity of like male rap music. And there's something that, I mean, I'm just not into it that big in general, but sometimes when women do it, I get a little more into it. It's just my personal taste. So I feel like I shouldn't be sleeping on Kendrick so much, but I do appreciate, I see him, even though I'm not covering him on this channel, and I probably never will. It's just a fact that I'm not that interested in his genre of music. We had Lady Gaga perform a medley between Joanne and Million Reasons. She had Mark Ronson also on stage with guitar, which was nice. I was worried when they said Mark Ronson was going to be on stage with her that they were going to be doing Perfect Illusion or something, and I was like, no, we're not bringing that song back. It's not my favorite song off of that record by any means. I must admit, I mean, her vocals and her piano was beautiful. I loved the swan on the piano to symbolize, the angel that, of course, she's singing about Joanne. I must admit, I do feel like performing Million Reasons felt a little bit derivative. I feel like she's just performed that song so much. I would have loved to see her go into another song. I'm thinking about like Beyonce last year. I mean, she performed a medley of songs from Lemonade. They weren't necessarily singles. I kind of wish that Gaga had maybe performed another song after Joanne, like maybe Angel Down, for example. That's a song that I haven't seen her perform live very much, and definitely not really ever on TV. And I think it fits the sentiment, where we are politically, socially, and also in the aspect of Joanne, Angel Down. It would have fit so beautifully with the piano and the feathers. So I was a little disappointed that she chose to go back into Million Reasons, because it's just, Million Reasons is a nice song, but it's not my favorite off of that album. Joanne is 10 times more strong to me and more memorable. But don't get me wrong, Million Reasons deserve to be nominated, and of course I can see why she did choose to perform that song, because it was nominated. But at the same time, that's what I would have preferred to have seen her perform. Of course, I have to talk about Kesha's performance, which was incredible, as I expected it would be. Not just her vocals and standalone, but the fact that she had all these women on stage with her. As a pivotal sort of symbolic anthem for the Time's Up movement, she was joined on stage by icons like Cyndi Lauper. The performance was introduced by Janelle Monáe. I thought that was very fitting. That Camila Cabello was up there with her, which I loved. You could tell how excited Camila was to be up there. Julia Michaels, Bibi Rexha, Andra Day. I'm not as familiar with them. Everyone's just dressed in white. And I mean, as though she doesn't hit that high note towards the end, I wasn't expecting her to. It was still a phenomenal vocal performance, and it was raw and it was powerful. I mean, I was so enthralled by that performance. And what made it so frustrating was the fact that at that time the performance, we already knew that Praying had been snubbed. It was just so unfortunate. But before I get into that, I'll just talk about some of the other highlight performances. Pink performing What About Us was phenomenal. I was expecting that to be, of course. And Elton John came out to perform Tiny Dancer, and he brought Miley Cyrus. He asked to perform with Miley Cyrus. So that's quite an honor for her. And I think that she did a brilliant job complimenting his vocals. I watched the video and there were tons of people coming at Miley for not sounding that good. People just will always find ways to bash Miley, and all that aside, it's not relevant for this performance, and this was really Elton's moment, so let's not spend too much time talking about Miley anyway. Elton did phenomenal. He's embarking on his farewell tour. Sam Smith had a great performance of his song Pray. He was very strong vocally, as I expected him to be as well, and I liked that he was also dressed all in white, what I would consider to be solidarity with, of course, the Me Too and Time's Up movement. So there were some pretty standout performances, as there usually are from the Grammys. I think the performances are more exciting than the actual awards that are given out. But the awards themselves were just so disappointing, snub after snub. And, usually I always feel like everyone gets snubbed, just even in the nominations process. but at least I can understand somewhat why some of these artists are winning this award. But this year was just completely, and luckily I could see through social media, I mean, everyone agrees, like, they were just so off. Particularly, I think, in the case of Ed Sheeran. Now, before I say any of this, I will say this. I do not think it is fair in this case for some people to be attacking Ed Sheeran, like, personally. It is easy to forget that, you know, Ed actually had no say, as we might think, at least, in terms of what happened. I know it is easy to think that some of these high profile, like in politics, some of these high profile musicians kind of like buy their way into the Recording Academy's favor, like Bruno Mars and Ed Sheeran do seem kind of like darlings of the Academy, and that they're just going to be always favored to win and no one else has like really a shot. But I'm one to like sort of believe that maybe there's some impartiality in there, maybe, but maybe I'm just being really naive. I don't know. But we have to remember that if we're going to really be mad at anyone, we should really be mad at, you know, this predominantly male Recording Academy who listens to and judges all of these songs, not necessarily Ed Sheeran himself. He's just making music, he's putting it out there. Maybe he can't necessarily help that it's so popular. Though personally, if I were Ed Sheeran, I would have said something. Of course, what really was frustrating was that he wasn't even there to accept his award. I guess we don't know why he didn't show up. I'm trying to like look up. I thought that someone said that there was a reason, but I'm seeing that there actually, as far as we know, is no reason for why he wasn't there. People are like, where was he? Maybe he was under the weather. I have no idea. But, it really is fortunate. I really wish that they could have, like, because he wasn't there, like, given it to Kesha or something. Oh, because can you imagine the speech that Kesha would have given? Oh, God, it would have been so powerful and so validating to have not only him win, because he was the only male in that category. I'm talking, of course, about Pop Vocal Album and Best Pop Vocal Song. He won in both those categories when all of the other contenders, except for the Pop Vocal Album, because for some reason Coldplay was in there. Very bizarre. He was the only male in that group, and he was the one who won. And, you know, again, people are, you know, saying that it's about meritocracy. It's just like, where is the... I'm sorry, but I have never really understood why Ed Sheeran has been so popular. I mean, I get that he's an average, if not slightly above average vocalist. I mean, he's cute and he's sort of like down to earth and geeky and like, I don't know. You know, it's funny. I mean, I used to think it was refreshing that, you know, guys like Ed Sheeran were getting so popular because he's not like your typical heartthrob. He's very geeky. He's short. He's not like ripped. He's not like Nick Jonas. You know, you can see why like people and labels and industries would want to throw all their money at like sex symbols and stuff. And Ed Sheeran's never really been one. Though, what a really biggest thing I have the problem with through all of this is the fact that in the case of pop vocal song performance, for Shape of You, that song in particular, I think is the worst song on his album Divide. And I think it is one of the worst big songs to become so popular in the last year. I never will understand why these songs, I mean, I guess they're catchy, but why, I mean, and then, okay, well, it does well on radio, but why are the Grammys so geared towards favoring artists that just do well on radio? What is it about Shape of You that's vocally interesting? I mean, there's actually a lot of auto-tune in that song, and it's just, I wouldn't call it demeaning normally, but let's be real. It's a song about a guy who he's seeing a hot girl in the club and he's getting horny. I mean, come on, like, in this context of what the show was obviously trying to force down our throats, you know, the Grammys are you know, self-congratulating themselves, and all of the presenters talking about how diverse they are and how they're in solidarity with the Time's Up and Me Too movement and female empowerment, and yet at the same time they award a song that is so, I would argue, anti-feminist, especially in the context that it was unfortunately placed in, where it's battling a song that's actually about someone surviving sexual assault. I don't like that I live in a world where that is what just happened. It just made me really, really angry, and I'm used to thinking, oh, Grammys, they just get everything wrong. But this time, I just, oh, and it's hard because, you know, I will never review Ed Sheeran on this channel. Oh, I love Ed Sheeran's music. He has some nice songs. Divide had some okay songs on there. I definitely think that Divide as an album was not nearly the album it's supposed, like, it's just not worth the hype. I think the faux Irish stuff he did was actually really disingenuous to actual Irish music and was very cheesy and like a slap in the face. So I do not appreciate the fact that he tried to make Irish sounding music because it was the most stereotypical Irish sound you could possibly imagine. Like the ballads are where he soars, and songs that like Supermarket Flowers are beautiful and I do like them and respect them, but it's just so frustrating to see the worst of an artist be the song that overshadows the better songs that the artist puts out. And like Castle on the Hill is, I think, so much of a stronger song, and it did pretty well, but it's not Shape of You's success, even though the songs were put out at the same time. Anyway, I'm really frustrated with this whole situation. You know, I would argue that Kesha really deserved that award. I mean, Lady Gaga would have deserved that too. I would have really loved to have seen Million Reasons take that home, but personally, I would have loved to have seen Joanne win for the whole album rather, because I don't think Million Reasons is incredibly strong on its own, but as a whole album, I think Joanne is a very strong album. Lana Del Rey being in there was, of course, such an amazing, deep down would have loved to have seen Lust for Life win Best Pop Vocal Album, but I knew that wasn't going to happen. I mean, that's not that surprising to me. But Kesha and Lady Gaga, yeah, that's unfortunate. Also, Lorde with Melodrama. She lost to Bruno Mars, which I haven't talked a lot about Bruno. Now, unlike Ed Sheeran, I do think that although I think Bruno is in a similar boat, he's overhyped, way overrated. I'm not very into his music. In fact, I'm not into his music at all. At least Ed Sheeran has that folk aesthetic, which I somewhat can understand and listen to because I do like folk music. But I mean, Uptown Funk, Bruno Mars just made my eyes roll back into my head. I just was never into his music. And I've got to be honest, the only song I heard off of 24 Karat Gold Magic was Versace on the Floor, and I must admit, I think that's the best song I heard off of that album, but that's what I like. I was like, no, this is just so, why? And then 24 Karat Gold Magic winning Album of the Year, it's just, again, so... It's not as frustrating as the Shape of You situation because, like I said, there's just that extra level of what I think is anti-feminist about the fact that Shape of You won against a song like Praying. It's like just not right at all because of the message of Shape of You versus the message of Praying. But still, it's frustrating to see Bruno and Ed, two men. Oh, yes, Bruno is, he's not white, but the difference with the music industry is that, unlike the Oscars, there has always been a lot of men of color being nominated. That's not so much of a problem with the music industry. I mean, just look how popular gangster rap is in this country. But women are still so undervalued in the music industry. And I mean, as someone who predominantly listens to female artists, of course you're going to hear me make a half-an-hour video about this. Because I could talk about it for years. It's just so maddening to me. I will also just comment on a few other, I know I spent a lot of time talking about those awards. I actually think Family Feud by Jay-Z should have won for Best Rap Song Performance. I actually really like that song, and I was really rooting for Family Feud, and I was a little disappointed. I can't believe I'm saying I was disappointed that Jay-Z didn't win an award, but Loyalty by Kendrick won with Rihanna, which I was fine with. It is what it is. This is, of course, a very predictable one, and of course was not televised, but for Best Compilation Soundtrack for Visual Media, La La Land won. But you know what? It's fine. It won over Moana, which I was a little upset about, but whatever. I guess it's not that surprising. And it also won for Best Soundtrack. So, it won over, like, Dunkirk, Hidden Figures, but then the best song written for visual media went to Moana. It went to How Far I'll Go, which that was a really nice surprise. I was really shocked because I was certain it was going to go to City of Stars from La La Land. Greg Kurstin won for Producer of the Year. I would have loved to have seen that gone to Calvin Harris, but I'm fine with that. For Best Traditional Pop Vocal, Tony Bennett won. I can see that. That's definitely not a bad choice. For Best Latin Pop Album, Shakira won for El Dorado. I was pretty happy to see that. I think El Dorado was not her strongest album by any means, and I'll be honest, it's the only Latin album I actually was aware of, so I guess I shouldn't be commenting. I don't know. Best New Age Album, the winner was Dancing on Water by Peter Cater. I'm not familiar with him, but you know what? I actually have got to be honest. I really think in the nominations, I think Enigma was snubbed for Best New Age this year. I would have loved to have seen The Fall of a Rebel Angel be nominated. I am not entirely sure if they would actually put him in the New Age category, but I mean, I guess that's where they would put him. I mean, they probably would not put him in, like, electronic dance, but he's still, I mean, the Academy always, like, favors Enya and stuff, which I always love. But the fact that Enigma didn't get nominated for that category, I was just thinking about that the other day. I was like, you know, that album could have been nominated. It would have been eligible because it came out in the time period. Humble won for Best Rap Song. Again, I'm definitely fine with that. I'm just glad it was not Bodak Yellow. Oh my goodness. And then for Best Rap Album, Damn won. Again, I'm not too shocked. I actually maybe would have seen 444. That might have been my choice instead. But I guess I'm just biased because I actually, like, listened to some of the songs on 444. Like, I actually bought a few of them, whereas I didn't buy any off of Damn, which I'm probably not. I'm going to probably get hate for that. I don't know. I don't know. I just am not into hip-hop. And then Best Urban Contemporary, Starboy, The Weeknd won. I'm not surprised there. I would have given it to SZA, but oh well. But yeah, Best Pop Solo Performance, Shape of You. Ugh. So frustrating. I mean, even What About Us would have been a great choice. I mean, I never thought What About Us or Love So Soft would have won, but What About Us is also so political and so important. It's just, oh, so frustrating. Yeah, so anyway, let me know what you thought in the comments. It's predictable, but it's just frustrating. And I don't put too much into it. A Grammy is just a Grammy, and I wish the Grammys meant more because, I mean, the Oscars, I feel like, they get things right and they mean so much. Even the Golden Globes now, but the Grammys it's kind of a joke, and it's really sad because I feel like music should take itself a little bit more seriously. But I will just end this with one thing. I did like Alicia Cara's speech because she did call out, you know, the whole popularity contest, and she devoted her award to tons of the artists, you know, because in Best New Artist, goodness, there's tons of people I would have nominated that didn't make it into this category. And there's just so many artists who are overlooked, and this is just, she kind of made that a tribute for them. So I really liked that sentiment, and I do think she was deserving of that award. So all in all, frustration, but yeah, don't necessarily take it out on Ed Sheeran himself personally, though. Again, if I were Ed and I would have said something, I would have had my Kanye West moment. Oh my God, it would have been so hard. If I was sitting on front stage, I would have gotten up and I would have said, you know, Ed, you're not here, you're great, but this award should have gone to Kesha for Praying. So, sorry. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, maybe I can live with Divide winning, but I just cannot deal with the fact that Shape of You won. It's just so frustrating. All in all, thank you so much for clicking and watching. If you enjoyed, please give it a like and subscribe. I will be making a video about the Oscars right afterwards, so I'll be doing, hopefully not like more of a ranty sort of video for that, because hopefully things are not so infuriating. But yes, Grammys are so male, and this needs to be addressed because, I mean, in a total, only 11 women won in all of the categories, but on the televised version, only 1 woman took home an award. It's just, this is not okay. And what is not okay is that there were so many women nominated, and yet the men still dominated. It's just like, what the heck? It's just not right. So hopefully we start to see that change. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day. Bye.